Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more detailed videos. It's hard to ignore the raw admission made by the actor when he said simply, "It's literally about control." When Cameron Mathison spoke those words about his character Drew Kane on the long-running daytime drama General Hospital, he pulled back the curtain in a way that many viewers might have suspected, but rarely heard so plainly. This is not simply about a plot twist or an angry outburst. This is about a character whose driving force is dominion, manipulation, control over every piece of the board, and especially over relationships that should be grounded in trust. It raises a question. When a character's motivation is control, what exactly is he trying to hold on to, and what does that mean for those around him? In playing Drew, Mathison gave voice to a man transformed, not only from his earlier heroic iteration, but into someone who no longer hides his ambition to manage, orchestrate, and dominate. According to interviews, the character's actions are less about logic and more about exerting influence, about setting the terms rather than responding. He needs everything to bend to his will. "There is not a lot of logic here," Mathison said. He was clear. The logic isn't the point. Control is. Control of people, control of outcomes, control of perception. What exactly does control look like in this incarnation of the character? It looks like manipulating someone's freedom under the guise of help. It looks like setting conditions in an attempt to engineer loyalty or compliance rather than gaining genuine buy-in. It means using relationships, not as mutual connections, but as means to an end. When Drew places restraining orders, limits access to a child, or makes an attorney take on a case only if certain conditions are met, he is not behaving like a friend or ally. He is behaving like someone who says, "You will do as I say, because I can shape the outcome and I control the risk." The interesting part is that Mathison acknowledges that his character realizes what is happening, yet hasn't fully accepted the consequence or the wrongdoing. He says, he hasn't accepted that what he's done is wrong. That means we're dealing with a character operating under the belief that his means are justified because his ends are noble, or at least presented as noble. In his mind, he is protecting those he claims to care for, a child, a loved one, a cause. But what he is actually doing is isolating, controlling, undermining autonomy. There's a huge gulf between protection and domination. When you claim to protect by taking away choices, that is not protection. It is power. For viewers, this raises a paradox. We might sympathize with a character who wants to help or save someone. But when we see the layered methods of manipulation, restriction, conditional forgiveness, setting up scenarios where someone must comply or lose what matters, we begin to question the nature of the relationship. It's no longer about love. It's about leverage. And that shift matters. The character's need for control becomes not just a personality trait, but the central conflict. It rewrites the dynamic. It shifts the stakes. It means that other characters become pieces to be moved rather than people to be engaged. Then there's the question, why is this so compelling to watch? For one, because watching a character unravel the idea of control is dramatic. It creates tension. We root for the attempted victim to reclaim autonomy, but at the same time, we are riveted by how the manipulator justifies his actions and tightens the strings. The adrenaline comes from seeing someone trapped in a dynamic they don't fully understand, or from seeing them begin to fight back. When Drew makes moves, when he lays down terms, when he threatens the fragility of someone's freedom, that is where the drama spikes. And knowing from Mathison's statement that it is literally about control makes those moments read differently. We see it as less about love, less about moral high ground, more about a power play. There's another layer. Control often disguises itself as care. A person who says, "I'm only doing this because I love you," or "I'm only doing this for you," often has control as a hidden motive. We've seen that in many stories, but this scenario explicitly acknowledges it. Drew doesn't merely act for someone else's welfare. He acts so that his welfare, or rather his sense of security, his sense of power, remains intact. That inversion is subtle yet potent. For example, he may claim he wants what's best for a child, but his method is to dictate who can access the child. He may claim he wants what's best for a spouse, but his method is to limit that spouse's autonomy. The duality is fierce, because in the recasting of the protector role into a dominator role, We suddenly stop rooting for the manipulator, and instead we root either for the victim to wake up or for the manipulator to face consequences. Now let's talk about consequences. Mathison indicates that Drew's downfall is partly self-inflicted. He hints the actor knows what is happening to the character is deserved. Yet the character keeps moving forward, not slowing down. That means the storyline isn't simply about someone going bad. It's about someone going uncontrollably down a spiral, because his need to dominate supersedes logic, love, and connection. The inescapable truth. The more you try to control other people, the more you lose control of yourself. It is one of those ironies of human behavior. The centerpiece of this narrative, control, is a trap. The act of controlling others ultimately controls you, rescinds your freedom, isolates you, alters your identity. He becomes the very thing he thought he was defending against. And we see this in the broader context of the writing, the arcs, the relationships. Drew's manipulations are not isolated. They ripple. They force others to react, to respond, to pick sides. They force characters into corners. They shift alliances. They redefine what's safe, what's moral, what's trustworthy. Control becomes the axis around which the story spins. The storytellers are essentially asking the viewers, which side are you on? Are you with the one trying to wrest freedom back? Or are you with the one trying to engineer the world to his liking? When the actor lays it bare, literally about control, the audience is reminded that this is not just one bad choice. It is a thematic heartbeat. It is the silhouette of the point. Drew transitions from flawed hero to architect of his own collapse. His earlier identity may have been rooted in valor, duty, heroism. But now he trades that for outcome, for execution, for manipulation. The audience watches a man lose his moral compass. And the actor openly acknowledging that shift casts a different light. It says, yes, we meant it. Yes, the character turned. Yes, we are exploring the consequences of domination. It's gutsy in a daytime drama to turn a beloved character into someone whose primary motive is power, and to then let that motive crash into other characters who are grounded, vulnerable, principled. The clash is inevitable. Let's analyze key relationships. There is the relationship with the child, the one he claims he wants to protect, but in protecting, he undermines. The child becomes a pawn. The caregiver becomes a jailer. The ally becomes a gatekeeper. This is a pattern of unhealthy connection. There is also the relationship with the spouse or partner, the one he might have chosen because he saw weakness, saw vulnerability, saw someone he could influence. The actor comments on how he is willing to push someone into taking on a legal case or allow visitation conditional on compliance. That is not partnership. That is power. What about the moral compass? Drew may believe in his goals. He may believe he is fighting for something noble. But Mathison's words suggest he is beyond denial. He knows what he's doing. He admits the logic is thin. He admits the motivation is blunt. He admits it is about control. When your own actor says that, the narrative invites you to evaluate with fresh eyes. We don't just watch to see what happens. We watch to see how it happens. We watch to see whether those being controlled wake up. We watch to see whether the controller faces reckoning. We watch to see whether autonomy is regained, whether power shifts. We ask, what happens when the strings are cut? What happens when the puppet realizes he has been moved? In a way, this storyline becomes a cautionary tale about control in relationships, in power structures, in human interactions. It is easy to assume that if someone is talented, privileged, successful, that their intentions must be good. But when we see them apply tactics of limitation, manipulation, obligation, we begin to question. Control disguises itself as love, as protection, as help. And for the character of Drew, that disguise is pulled off with dramatic effect. The actor's admission cuts through the glass. This is not a redeemable hero arc. This is not incidental misdeeds. This is something deeper. This is an exploration of how ambition, fear, and desire for dominance can distort identity and relationships. We can apply this observation beyond the fictive world. Too often, in personal or professional spheres, the line between leadership and coercion blurs. We say, I'm only doing this for you. But if the for you comes with strings, only if you agree, Only if you respond, only if you comply, then the dynamic changes. The one offering help becomes the one withholding autonomy. The beneficiary becomes the indebted. The protector becomes the oppressor. When Cameron Mathison says it's literally about control, we are compelled to see that dynamic play out in vivid, melodramatic ways on screen, but also in subtle ways in everyday life. From a craft standpoint, consider the risk the actor takes. Drew Kane started out as a character with a history of heroism, valor, honor. To pivot into a posture of control is daring. To then publicly affirm that shift is even more daring. Because the audience may resist, the legacy may weigh heavy, the fans may balk. Yet by owning the direction, the actor invites discourse. Yes, I am the bad guy now. Yes, I am playing someone who is willing to cross lines. Yes, I am showing what happens when control becomes a habit. It changes the fan expectation. It reframes the stakes. It forces us to pay attention. And let's not forget, the interplay between actress and actor, between characters, between victims and manipulators. Those interactions hold tension because the power is not always transparent. Not always overt. Drew doesn't always issue a threat in bold letters. Sometimes he whispers. Sometimes he conditions. Sometimes he withholds. As viewers, the suspense builds when the target doesn't even realize they're being manipulated, or when they do but feel powerless. That subtle slow burn of control becomes more chilling than a blatant takeover. The actor, by citing control as the backbone, lets us see the design beneath the surface. What might the trajectory look like? If control is the central motif, then loss of control is likely to be the turning point. When you build your world around intervention and manipulation, the moment you slip, when someone resists, when your power is exposed, is the moment of collapse. The storyline appears to be heading that way. With detention, strategy, hidden agendas, Drew's empire of influence is vulnerable. The actor states that Drew hasn't accepted wrongdoing, meaning the character is still driving, but the seeds of downfall are planted. Control can never be absolute. Eventually the system cracks, the alliances shift, the game changes. And when that happens, the man who thought he could steer the world finds himself in the current. For the audience, this carries another layer of intrigue. We don't just want to know what happens next. We want to know, how will he fall? Because when someone built on control loses it, the unraveling is fascinating. Will Drew fight for redemption? Will he double down into worse behavior? Will the characters he manipulated wake up, or have they already? The tagline, "It's literally about control," suggests we're in the thick of something deliberate and thematic, not incidental or coincidental. Finally, this admission opens a broader conversation about writing, characters, morality, and agency in serialized storytelling. Many characters across shows get darker arcs. But when the actor acknowledges the motive as control, it gives the audience permission to see beyond surface drama, to see the architecture of power, the mechanics of manipulation, the human cost of being under someone else's rule. And for the characters within the story, the cost is real. Freedom, trust, identity, love. Under a controller's thumb, none of those flourish. They shrink. They warp. In conclusion, when we hear it's literally about control, we know we're dealing with more than a soap opera twist. We're dealing with a character's descent into dominance, a narrative that challenges ideas of help, protection, and love, and an invitation for viewers to interpret not only what the character does, but why. The why is the pivot. And in this pivot, we find the real story. The story of someone trying to hold everything still, only to realize that the harder you hold on, the more you break what you were trying to save. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel for all of your updates.